Alright guys, got this 2015 Yukon that was towed in from another shop. As you can see, we've got a PCM here. What they ended up doing, they found out this computer is bad, it doesn't communicate or wouldn't start the car, and so on and so forth. So they ordered from one of those online places a replacement PCM that actually goes ahead and sort of pre-programs it, let's call it. By that, I mean, I know at least that they write the VIN number into it. And with that, they gave him basically kind of a warning that he might have to do SPS programming to do the immobilizer or learning the emo between the new PCM that they provided him or the reman, and so on and so forth, or potentially the vehicle would not start. And if it does start, it is potential for down the line to have go into this no start situation, all due to, again, immobilizer issues. So they had replaced it. It actually took about a month, but it went into that no crank situation. And I will get you some of the trouble codes. But what I wanted to do was kind of help you guys out there if you run into this problem, particularly because I personally do not have SPS or do GM programming here in house. I would have to call someone in, and they actually hadn't called me back, so I was trying to research, see if I can get this done. Initially, I was going to look into basically using the OBD star and cloning this one, or taking the info from this one and cloning it over, making a one-to-one copy of this. But I didn't go ahead and do that because I wanted to attempt what I did. The other reason why I was kind of hesitant was being that it did not communicate for the shop. The way that the OBD star clones it is through the CAN lines, and so I was kind of worried that maybe I wasn't be able to pull the info out of it. There is a boot mode in the OBD star, and prior to even getting this one here, I was not aware of how this computer is, let's call it, sealed or put together. There's no screws, there's no tabs or flaps to undo. I'm gonna assume you have to cut this open to get into boot mode. So I was definitely not trying to do that, which I probably would have been able to pull all the info I needed, but I wasn't trying to go ahead and cut that. Being that most likely you weren't gonna be able to pull anything through the CAN lines, I decided to go ahead and try this. So I'll tell you right now that the thing I tried did end up working. Again, it was kind of a long shot because this is, I guess, a global A type of GM and so on and so forth. So I think the only reason why it worked for me is because the VIN was already programmed from those supplier people. And so at this point, basically, I had to just go through learning the key. And this is my final window, let's call it, after performing everything. But I'll show you the steps that you'll need to do. Again, only if the VIN number is already programmed into it. And so let me show you. We'll go ahead and crank it. So everything is good. It starts, runs, drives. I'll be able to move the vehicle, but initially what you need to do, so let's hit escape to back out. Now this is the IM608, and I'm in the emo function of the tool, not diagnostics. And so it'll bring you up once it identifies the vehicle, bring you to this page, and you can do a scan. It'll bring you the same codes that you found in diagnostic portion of the tool. And then what you need to do, so you go to control unit, and you need to get a pin code in order to learn the key with the tool. And so you go here to read immobilizer password, and it pulls it from the BCM. That's the one thing that kind of is a savior here, is that it can pull the pin from the BCM and it'll be usable to learn the key. Once you do that, you back out, and then actually let me show you. So I took a screenshot and also a picture with the phone of the pin code. And so this is what it will pull up after it reads it. Take a picture or save it, and there's the usable pin. And so once you do that, you back out to this portion, then you go into hot functions, and you want to go through the add, and I'm not sure if the all keys lost will work, but what I ended up doing was going through the add key portion, and there's quite a few steps that you'll have to follow that the tool will prompt you to, like cycling the key on, off, so on and so forth. So that just follow the steps that it tells you, and it asks you to put this in the slot, which on this vehicle ended up being right here. So that's how it'll read or find the key and learn the key, so on and so forth. Just actually sitting here, I noticed that there's an error message for the theft deterrent. There we go. And then that lock is there. So I just now noticed that. So I guess sort of here live. Let's see what's going on. But we're able to start it. So let's just see. We'll do the status scan. And so let's push this once. We'll hit read. Okay, now let's take a look at the report. So when it does that, it'll read the modules that are related to the kind of emo system. And so these are the codes that actually were in there beforehand. And security code not programmed. So we'll have to see these switch to not current. This one is. Let's see if we can clear. Let's turn the key on. Alright, so looks like the ECM is not playing well with this. Let's go into the diagnostic portion, see if that'll give us a little bit more of an ability. Alright, we're in. Let's do complete system scan. Alright, let's go in here, see what we get. Oh, not too sure on this. Let's go here. Okay, so bringing you guys back. Before, as we had seen, the engine control module would not clear those. It had two immobilizer codes. One seemed to be in the past, one was present. And if I would hit clear, they would come back right away. I ended up just pulling this inside. It would still start up, so I brought it inside. I moved on to doing some suspension work there. Let this sit for maybe an hour or so with the scanner in. Obviously vehicle was off. Came back in, reread the engine control module. Those two codes were still there, one present, one not. I backed out of the reading the codes and back to this main menu, and I noticed that the faults had gone from 2 faults to 1. And so since I saw that it was able to clear one of them, I, from this screen, hit clear all, and basically wiped out the whole car, clear all the fault codes and all the modules, and all of them did end up clearing, as you can see. Now, this is where I'm picking up where I left off. I'm letting it sit after these supposedly did go away. So let's go ahead and do the first start. Let's crank it over. So still is showing the error message. Let's see if we pull up 2 codes or the 1. Okay, so we're down to just 1 being currently present. So we're going to need to figure out how to take care of that, despite the fact that it is always starting. But I don't want to let it go and have them run into the same situation where possibly down the line it's going to prevent itself from starting because possibly being still in like a learning mode. So after learning the keys and getting it started, I need to figure out why the computer's not happy or what it's not happy with, and it keeps throwing this immobilizer security code not programmed code. And I'd like to see if there's anything I can do here in-house where I can get this rectified and completed and get that code gone. And just a couple things to make note of. The proper 100% way to get this done is to get a fresh, blank, new computer from the dealer and use factory GPS programming in order to get this 100% programmed properly and security immobilizer everything set up with no problems. Or the other way that this can be done is if you do order from an online place that pre-program the VIN number, the procedure to finalize everything when installing that is again to use factory GMSPS programming and finish the follow-up procedure. And if you are going to attempt to go with a used computer, it is a job that can be done as long as the original computer communicates. If so, then you can do a one-to-one clone with many of the toolings that are out there, and you'll be able to get all the information transferred over to the used one, and it'll start, run, and drive with no immobilizer issues, so on and so forth. My problem with that, as I mentioned, is that the original one does not communicate, so I cannot go that route because I cannot pull any info to transfer over. But because the OBD Star did offer a boot mode as far as retrieving information, I went as far as trying to collect that data from the original one by going into boot mode and, yes, having to cut open the engine computer cover to tap into the circuit board and attempt to get the information. Unfortunately, that also did not work. I guess the computer's just completely dead, and so I'm completely out of options on trying to transfer over information. Since we have a used computer, and the trouble code is for security code not programmed, my mind goes straight to that PIN code that we pulled to learn the keys, which is pulled from the BCM, which is stored in the vehicle now. And if we have a used computer with a different PIN code, I believe that that's where the mismatch was happening, and that was generating the trouble code since both codes did not match each other. So with that piece of information, I decided to try to look for and find the PIN code of the used computer. Unfortunately, oddly, when I read it on the bench, it was able to communicate, but it did not bring up the PIN code in the display portion. It was just blank. So I used the OBD Star, put it on through the OBD, and kept the engine computer installed in the car and attempted to read the information through OBD, and it actually was able to pull the PIN code. And as you can see here, down there where it says seed, we have 1C89. Now this gave me a piece of information that I can work with and go by and try to see if I can make something happen. So my next step was to pull up the files that I am able to retrieve with the tool of the used computer, which was the EEPROM file and the flash file. And within those, using that seed code that the tool gave us, I went looking for it in the files and was able to find it in a couple different locations. And so then with that, it gave me the idea, assuming that this is the same PIN code that I had pulled with the tool when learning the keys, I decided to go forward and change all of those that I found here in the files with the pin code that we had pulled out of the BCM. And so after modifying the file, both the EEPROM and flash, I decided to go forward and write those into the used computer that's installed in the car using the tool through the OBD connector, which was my first time doing so. All other times I've done it through the bench. And after writing the files with the tool, I went ahead and reread it with the new files. And clearly, as you can see, we have changed the seed successfully. It now reads 0108, which was the same pin code we pulled from the BCM within the vehicle. And so now the BCM and PCM both have matching seed codes that hopefully will take care of the trouble code. But unfortunately, it did not work. The trouble code still popped up. So whether I did something incorrectly when changing the files, or it just was not the true code that it was looking to have match, I am not sure what happened. But ultimately, what I ended up doing was kind of giving up, and I called my friend Dave to come through with his factory GM programming and get this written and programmed correctly. And eventually, yes, the code did go away. Now, some might complain that this is a waste of time, unnecessary work, something that should have been simple, quick, over and done with regular, proper programming. And they are absolutely correct. And if this was a computer that communicated, I would have simply been able to just make a quick video of punching buttons on the screen of the tool to complete the procedure and make a one-to-one clone. But I was faced with one that did not communicate, and I was not able to transfer the information over. And I do not have factory GM SPS programming in-house as well. So because of those things, I was trying to figure out what GM's logical thinking was for throwing the trouble code and seeing if there was a backdoor type method where I could figure this out through changing files and seeing what code it was complaining about, so on and so forth. So in a way, I was trying to learn and figure something out with what I had in-house. But ultimately, it did not work. I did learn some stuff, but the correct way to get this done is to do factory programming with the GM software. But maybe one day again, I'll be faced with the same situation and I'll go about trying to figure it out and maybe be successful. But this time, I just wanted to bring this video along to show you that if you get faced with this computer problem where a VIN number is written and it loses its key information, you are able to relearn the keys and get the car started as long as the VIN number is pre-programmed. With that, it will work. And so thank you for watching and joining me through my struggles.